Chapter 34. The First Circle of the Underworld. The Alchemical Crucible. "What is our task?" I whispered to the fairy, while the dragon named Satan was passed out on my lap.
Our task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built up against love,
said the golden fairy. "But how will we proceed? How will we find the way?"
Think of this process as an alchemical crucible. By this journey into the descent within, we discover where the pure nature of spirit is clogged, and once released, the pure nature of divinity within our world will be unlocked. There are 7 gates, or 7 circles of the underworld. But to even begin, we must enter the cave into the point of no return, where we seal the crucible,
said the golden fairy. "Why must it be sealed?"
This seal could be viewed as the symbolic aspect of the underworld, where all the reactions of the alchemical process can unfold. If we simply do this process without a top on our crucible or an open air, no pressure will build. Therefore, the reaction will not be controlled. All our work would be for nothing, and the energy will dissipate into thin air. But rather, we enter into a sealed vessel, which is a cave or receptacle, and by sealing the top, the pressure builds, so that we are transformed by the sacred fire,
said the golden fairy. "But why are there 7 gates, or 7 circles of the underworld?"
The number 7 refers to the 7 source spirits of God. They embody the 7 qualities of all things and the 7 powers at work in every natural process. They divide, like a cell, into a dark sphere of wrath and a light sphere of life. The 4th spirit, fire, is the pivot and the central point of the separation process. The symbol of this work of reunification could be viewed in Indian culture as the Shri Yantra, meaning the complete interpenetration of sexes, which is a symbol of Christ. This primal androgyny is the reason that Christ became human in the woman's part and brings the man's part back into the holy matrix. This enables us to travel downwards, to break down the portals of hell, defeat death, and to rise up and thus fulfill the prophecy in Micah chapter 2. So their leader breaks out before them, and the Lord leads the way. The serpent is enthroned in this space as Satan himself, which is seen in the fall. We are after the healing tincture, which breaks the power of the cunning snakes. And if this is found, thus the gates of paradise are opened once more. And according to the level of perception in life, the souls encounter, more or less, large obstacles upon this crossing. At the center, we must pass through the solnitric fire, which rises as a flash or recognition. It's the secret salt fire of the alchemists. When Lucifer rebelled, he brought our dwelling place into such a chaotic state that God created the visible and tangible world from it in 6 days. But because of its temporal nature, it was unattractive to Lucifer, and so he left it. That is when Adam was created as a compendium of the whole universe. The 7 spirits manifest themselves as planetary forces which arise from the wheel of anguish of outer nature. Adam was created in a state of purity and perfection, and is the point of intersection between the divine world and the dark world of fire. 3 creatures made claims on him. First, I, as Sophia, as the companion of youth. Second, Satan, below him. And third, the spirit of the world, which is the astral influences. In order to force Adam into a decision, there follows the temptation at the tree of knowledge. The aspects of myself as Sophia and Satan are the 2 contrary snakes upon the staff of Mercury, which reveals that the caduceus is united. Under this process, Poor Adam has actually fallen and lost everything that was good and worth striving for. He lies as though dead at the spirit of the world. This process of descent involves gloom as we journey into chaos under the earth rather than ruling over it. All the states of fire and the inferno begin to impart their influences upon him. Like two triangles in opposing directions coming together, we are bringing that which is above in union with that which is below, which is the most meaningful sign in the entire universe, and this is the work of rebirth and reunification with Sophia,
said the fairy. But what does all this mean?
Simply stated, the impure lead within you is about to become cooked so that you can become good like gold. The raw chaotic source material, the legacy of Satan's and Adam's fall, is shown as a beast with horns and a crown, of which it is said in the Apocalypse, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after that beast. This exaltation occurs during the phases of the great work,
the fairy foretold. I hear these words, but why would I be bound to such misery to depart lower yet again?
We call it Saturn, or night. Saturn has said, I say to you that I am the thing itself, but you must not touch me. Within me lies the seed of all animals, herbs, and ores. Saturn was the proud ruler in the eternally youthful Golden Age, but since his son Jupiter overthrew him, then he was put under the earth. Saturn is currently in a pitiful condition, as are you, the father of death, with a sickle in hand. He now embodies the destructive aspect of time, and represents the original gate of darkness in the great work, through which material must pass in order to be renewed into the light of paradise. The lowest and coarsest level, the sediment of the world edifice, is assigned to Saturn, which are the stones, earth, and lead. He has become the cold, sharp, strict, and severe ruler called Aurora, who created the material skeleton of the world. The influences of Saturn feel all kinds of poverty and misery. He symbolizes the pure spirit, and has been referred to as a great, wise, and understanding Lord, the begetter of silent contemplation, and a keeper and discoverer of mysteries. In this way, he rose to become the patron of the alchemists, our central role model. Saturn is the seventh planet in the cosmological system. Behold, in Saturn lies gold enclosed, just as man lies now, after his fall, in a great bestial likeness. You are like the coarse stone in Saturn. Saturn urges us to know thyself, to visit the interior of the earth, and through rectification, which is purification through repeated distillation, you will find the hidden stone. You are Saturn's gray wolf, the child of Saturn, and we are going to throw you the body of the king. And as you swallow this king, then we will build a fire and throw you into it so that you burn up, and then the king will be liberated again. For the purification of gold, the true king must be heated through immense flames and pressure. This is called the philosopher's magnet, the wolf of metals, the fire dragon, or the bath of the true king. This is the process of the ancient sage who wishes to rejuvenate himself, and he should cause himself to be divided up and boiled until completely cooked. Then you will be reunited and rejuvenated to your most powerful form. The dove is the spirit, the essence, which reunites with the bodily remains after putrefaction. Just as this Saturn is baptized with his own water, the black raven flies off. The whole process of this philosophical work is nothing but that of dissolving and making hard again. Saturn, which is an anagram of nature's, is the fleshly principle at the root of this work. Saturn is pregnant with the golden fruit, but the craftsman of this child is Mercurius, or Hermes. Know that Saturn is the ruler of the two signs of Aquarius and Capricorn, whereas Capricorn is the relentless spirit of the man who wears the horns. Understand that Saturn represents the poison's initial stage of matter, but through the King Sun, it signifies a transformation, a blossoming, where we pass through the final maturity after we pass through all 7 circles of the underworld,
said the Golden Fairy. God help us, I prayed.
Be patient with yourself. Growth is tender. It is holy ground. There is no greater investment. The wound in one person can become the door through which everyone can find the center of life again,
said the fairy. Do you know where we will go?
Yes, and you know too,
said the fairy. Lower? The fairy nodded, and I realized in spectacular fashion that I could tune into her always. Her energy was radiant, as if her tiny form transmitted messages of wisdom out from the earth.
In the sacred writings of the Puranas, there are 7 layers of Patala, which is the subterranean realm of the universe. Although these inner worlds hold dense karma, we would not see these beings in the lower realms as cursed. The lands of the underworld are filled with pressure, which results in splendid jewels, beautiful groves, and lakes. While some traditions would call the underworld hellish, it is not permanent, so it is created and managed so that the soul does in fact rise and elevate. This is all documented in the Puranas, which are ancient legends or stories that include folklore varying in origin, and these sages include diverse topics such as cosmology, pilgrimages, genealogies of kings, sages, medicine, temples, and love stories. From these writings, we learn that the universe is divided into 3 worlds. In the middle is the Earth realm, then the subtle dimensions, which could be called heaven or paradise, and the lower realms, which we are about to enter, called Patala, or the 7 levels of the underworld where the Nagas rule and live. Since our universe is ever-changing, we can see the movement between these regions as something like a dance or play. Based on how we live, our actions, and the choices we make changes where our soul is placed. No setting is permanent, but rather we are called to grow, learn lessons, and expand. The teachings and instructions are reflected upon to ensure what our soul must learn, and so no creature, plant, woman, child, or man is ever damned. We simply learn, and then we find a way to grow. The path is faster for those who are eager to evolve, and for those who cling, grasp, or attach to material desires and sin, then their path is slowed. The 7 lower regions are the 7 subterranean heavens, and they can be regarded as planet systems below the Earth. Do not fear where we are heading, for even the most difficult lessons cannot permanently hurt. These regions are described as being more opulent than the upper heavenly regions of the universe. The life here was meant for pleasure, wealth, and luxury with no distress. But since the dragon named Satan has taken control, these layers have turned into quite the mess. The chief architect is named Maya, and has constructed palaces, temples, houses, yards, and even hotels for foreigners with beautiful jewels. The natural beauty of Patala is said to surpass that of heaven, yet there is no sunlight in the lower realms. But the darkness is dissipated by the shining of the jewels. We are entering into the place of no old age, no sweat, and no disease,
said the Golden Fairy. But then why does it feel like hell? Why is it overtaken by the dragon named Satan? Whatever you're describing does not quite fit in this present situation. Meanwhile, the head of the dragon named Satan was still asleep upon my lap.
When there is a balance in the universe, all realms exist in cosmic harmony. But since the dragon is not in its cage, it inflicts havoc across all of humanity. This chaos spread into the lower and upper realms, and since the balance of harmony is thrown off, you must teach Satan how important it is to stay in the cage. This is a difficult task, but even the dragon's purpose is not a lost cause,
said the Golden Fairy. So there are 7 levels we are to descend through, and we must take this dragon named Satan with us.
Yep, you've got it. Know that ages ago, before the dragon lost control, each level was ruled by a divine being, since even in the underworld, these 7 levels were seen as sacred temples. These divine protectors were respected, and so each level held a leader to teach the lost souls how to elevate and radiate. It was a beautiful process in which the souls were not trapped or trying to escape. Now, as Satan rules these regions, this space appears to be covered with grief, despair, and depression. But that is because the underworld is in command of the drunk dragon. It is not a matter of slaying this beast, but rather you are called to teach him,
said the fairy. You want me to instruct Satan?
Start by listening to him. Have him show you around. You're the unicorn, since you're the human that appears to have a set of horns. Look at him resting in your lap. He trusts no one else. He might appear as a wicked beast, but even this dragon is like a mirror. So we must remember, he too has a heart,
said the golden fairy. And are you going to guide me? Because I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to teach.
Wisdom is an opportunity to transform curses into blessings, challenges into opportunities. It is just a matter of how we interpret each situation,
said the fairy. I just don't know if I understand. It feels like there's something missing.
In the midst of hate, I found there was, within me, an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was, within me, an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was, within me, an invincible calm. I realized, through it all, that in the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against us, within us, there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back,
said the golden fairy. With that, the dragon came to. It opened its eyes when I smiled before it asked,
Who the hell are you?
Just a friend.
A friend? What were we doing?
Asked the dragon. We were talking about persimmon trees and sake.
Sounds dumb, but I could use some sake. Got any?
Said the dragon. Not on me. I don't have much these days, but I am pretty curious about your cave. You must be very brave. The dragon got up, and it wiggled some dirt off from its wings. It stepped around the cave, and then took a seat and stared at me.
What are you doing here?
Asked the dragon. Oh, me? I'm looking for a hidden inner kingdom. Some say it's the most rare. Some call it a secret garden.
Nah, you won't find it here. I've looked everywhere. That's why we're taking over the earth. Hey, that's a pretty solid sword. You up for fighting? We could use you in the battle,
asked the dragon. I'm afraid my days of fighting are over. When it comes to battles, I'm retired.
But the sword's on fire. Is that Excalibur?
Asked the dragon. Sure is.
But how'd you become the handler? That's the sword that can't be pulled,
said the dragon. That's how the story goes, doesn't it? But I still believe in miracles. Now what are you doing here? What are you after? You've got a really impressive army. So what are you trying to master?
More like capture. And you've got horns, so you'll get it too. I'm not satisfied until I get all of it,
said the dragon. All of what?
All of every kingdom. I'm close. And then I'll own everything, everyone, and all the gold. Oh, the people will soon know who rules them, and I'll always remind them how I came to win,
said the dragon. Well, you'll get just about every kingdom, except for one, because I'm going to find the secret one.
No, that won't happen. I'm stronger than you,
said the dragon. Of course, and I'm not against you, but the secret kingdom is hidden for a reason. How else do you think I was able to pull Excalibur and hold it before you? This perplexed the dragon, and he was baffled that there might be a kingdom he couldn't find. He paced as he tried to count all the kingdoms that he had come to find.
What's the secret kingdom like?
Asked the dragon. It's like nothing anyone has ever seen. It's split in 4 sections, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you can catch a glimpse in your dreams. It's the kingdom over all kingdoms. It is God over the spirit. They call it Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. It has 4 rulers, but only a single throne in the middle of it. Whoever sits upon the throne controls the 4 directions, and within the 4 directions exist all the other kingdoms.
All the kingdoms?
Asked the dragon. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to find it, but good luck with the rest of it. I believe in you. I believe that each of us are led to discover what it is that we're here to do, and that's why we each have a quest. I stood up with the sword and started walking to the back of his cave.
I know what I'm doing, but where are you going?
Asked the dragon. I'm going inward to find the secret way.
You're not afraid?
Asked the dragon. Once upon a time, there was a king and queen, and they lived in a castle. But near the castle, there was a forest. And in the old days, there was always a forest near the castle. But this was a little unusual, in that whoever went into this forest never came back. 20 hunters went into the forest, but they never came back. Later, about 35 more hunters went after them, but they never came back. Then about 40 hunters were sent after them, but they never came back. And so they simply left that part of the forest alone. No one entered that forest anymore. Only occasionally a hawk or an eagle flew over. It remained that way for a long time. Then one day, that changed. I went to the king of the kingdom and asked, I wonder, is there anything around here that one shouldn't do? The king said, Why, yes there is. There's a journey, but the return rate is not so good. I don't advise it.
Well, what did you do?
Asked the dragon. I went right in, and I never stopped. So if you don't mind, I'm going inward to find the kingdom of Sa, Ta, Na, Ma.
But you know that this is my kingdom, and if you go too deep, you'll get trapped. Once you enter into the first level of the Underworld, there's a chance you'll never come back,
said the dragon. I smiled at the dragon, and the dragon smiled at me. We were both up to something that the other couldn't quite see. I'm not coming back. This is a one-way trip. Once I get to the throne at the peak of the 4 directions, the true king will reside and look over all of it. The dragon was disgruntled, and so I could tell this made him uptight. He wasn't angry or vicious yet, but rather, he seemed curious if I might be right.
Well, where do you figure this kingdom is? I haven't searched all the caves, but I've got a pretty good idea of what's down there,
said the dragon. It's on the other side of fear.
The other side of fear? What's it near?
Asked the dragon. It's at the very bottom, where the Nagas live. I used to live with a serpent woman. I guess you could call it a fling, or a brief relationship.
You and a Naga? Who would dare? It's been ages since I've been all the way down there. Say, you wouldn't mind if I come with you while you go down to explore?
Asked the dragon. Not at all. Just as long as you promise that I can trust you. You never know what the descent takes. Can you promise me that you'll stay true? The dragon put its hands behind its back, and I literally watched it cross its toes. He was a liar, all right, but at least the signs were obvious, so now I would know.
I promise,
said the dragon. All right, let's go. There before us was a giant door that led to the first level of the Underworld, and before the entrance was a giant protector, and so he approached me with a cup of a certain nectar. What's this?
Candidates, if you want to go in, then you've got to see the door,
said the guard. And what's it do?
It loosens the soul that lying a bit. You'd see the enchanters and portraits and look through you,
said the guard. The dragon took a cup and drank it at once. As I gazed in the cup, it appeared like a sort of greenish herbal punch. And when it comes to true love, then what won't we do? I didn't know exactly how to get this done, but I knew this dragon needed to be subdued. I drank the cup, and it was a hemp-infused compound. Then I relaxed my shoulders back, and now the dragon, the fairy, and I were on our way down. It was a door to another dimension, an opening into a plane of concealed souls, and as the cannabis compound entered into my system, my sight opened to what my physical eyes wouldn't know. Here there were spirits of all kinds, and women ruled this first level. It seemed even the dragon could not command these women, who had assumed the form of feminine rebels. Here some men were chained to their mistresses, and I could even see through them. Just by a glance, you see the soul of what life they had lived. Here it was the feminine that picked males as their partners, and so the total control had been granted to the feminine. It was easy to spot which males were not mature, for they were treated like dogs who ate their food off the floor. These women used them like couches, and they'd kick their feet up on them as if they were coffee tables. The feminine was supreme in this realm, and so these men would serve their time until the feminine spirits would let them go. I noticed 3 types of women. First, there were the self-willed, who liked to marry men from their same status. These women were the most reasonable by far. Next was the lustful, who would marry men from any group, status, or karmic condition. Third was the women who totally gave up on themselves, who kept changing their partners. Whenever a man entered this first level of the underworld, the women would enchant him and serve him the intoxicating cannabis drink that induces sexual energy in the man. Then, the women would enjoy sexual play with the traveler. It was a level of Maya, or illusion, where truth was buried beneath conscious awareness. The women here were symbolic of the emotions that conjure cravings. These men just couldn't overcome the mind and that which makes us selfish, horny, and greedy. These individuals were simply not aware that their ego drove their desires into insanity. For the women, and for the dragon, the fairy, and I, it was obvious to see where these men were mentally caught, and so I saw that the inner expression of their soul was tangled up in knots, and until they unraveled this mystery, it seemed they would be stuck and lost in desire, and so the filth would twist and tangle them even more, where they'd get stuck in the muck and mire.
Why haven't any of these women jumped you? I don't understand,
asked the dragon. Can't you see it?
Not really. The cannabis cup is never enough for a dragon my size. In order to see through the whole soul, I'd need a barrel of that cannabis cocktail,
said the dragon. These women were hungry for fresh blood, and they gazed at me as if I was a forbidden fruit they wanted to taste. They licked their lips as if one of them might devour me, but something in their spirits held them in place.
So why haven't they devoured you yet?
Asked the dragon. I got bit by the snake of darkness a while back, and so I got a nickname. They call me Black Apple, and surely these women can see the poison in my veins, and so I'm sure they know that I've already been claimed. Now a central woman with a crown came forth, and she seemed to be the queen of this realm. Everyone parted before her, as if the mere sight of her made the other men and women overwhelmed.
But who claimed you?
Paused the dragon.
What's her name?
Now this queen came face to face with me, and she gave me a look of filth. They can't touch me, because I belong to Lilith. Why, this was the first time a woman in this first layer of the underworld wouldn't get her way, and so the queen knew she couldn't taste the black apple. This made her soul infuriated with rage.
That's what artists do. We're transforming chaos into order all the time. We live on that edge. It's a very tough place to live, because we can fall into the chaos at any time. Imagine the world of earthly life as an explored territory, inside an unexplored territory. There are things we know and things we don't know. And the conservative people like to be in the middle of the earth that is known. But the artists, we like to be on the edge between chaos and order. The artists expand the domain of order out in the realm of chaos. And we do this by transforming perceptions. Now don't you see it? Your curses are your greatest blessings,
said the fairy.